This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari on the 19th of October in the year 2018. Anno Domini, or of the Common Era, depending on your persuasion. My name is James Henry. On camera today, the greatest French Gabonese Air Force pilot in all history, Sébastien Romy. There he is. And that, over there, is a giraffe. As we look at that giraffe, allow me to tell you, as I do every day, and everyone else does every day, that you may talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Otherwise, you can @FC on the YouTube chat stream, and we will do our level best to answer any questions or address any comments that you might have. That is, of course, the southern giraffe, and it is eating leadwood, young leadwood leaves, which are not thorny, but it is quite spiky. Yes, Daniel, good morning, giraffe, indeed. Good morning, and good morning to you, Daniel. Well, it might be the evening for you, depending on where you happen to find yourself on this fine planet, the only planet that we have at this stage, despite how some people might choose it. You'd think we'd have thousands of planets to play with, but we only have one. So wherever you are on this fine planet, Daniel, I hope that you're having a good morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever it is. It's just gone 5 o'clock here, Central African time. The sky is pinkening to the east. Soon, hopefully, we'll actually have some sun. We haven't seen the sun for about 5 or 6 days now. Well, 3 or 4. Apparently the cloud is clearing today, but will return again tomorrow. Well, I'll sit with this giraffe a little bit longer. In the meantime, guess who you're going to meet now?
Good morning, hello, Avusheni. How are you this morning? My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Senzo Keys on camera with me. James is heading up towards the north to look for Tandi and Tlalamba. I'm having a look through the central sections to see if I cannot find my favorite kitty, Hosanna. Now, I also think Tingana is around. I think he made a kill yesterday somewhere in this area. So when Tingana is not sitting on a kill, he's a very vocal, very mobile leopard. And at about 11 o'clock yesterday morning, while I was chatting to Tristan and Ali, all of a sudden, in the middle of the day, Hosanna started sawing. I mean, not Hosanna. Hosanna wasn't sawing. Tingana was sawing. But somewhere in this area. So maybe he caught something. And I didn't hear any more sawing last night. Or early this morning. So he could be around. But for now, I'm going to look for Hosanna. Senzo, you were with Hosanna last night. You weren't with Hosanna last night. Okay. Well, we're going to keep moving and send you back to James and the giraffe.
Yes, back to James and the giraffe. There is the giraffe. As I say, still eating leadwood. Female southern giraffe, of course. It's not a particularly interesting fact, but, you know, it's important to just get these things stated at the outset. And, of course, they're supposed to be in little groups. And although she doesn't look like she's in a little group, I did see another 2 giraffe further off to the north of where she's standing. And so they will be probably in audio, olfactory and visual contact. So they'll make little sub or infrasonic sounds towards each other. Oh, it's very good to hear from you, Tony. It's been a while since I heard from you, Tony. It's a good question to know how far is this giraffe stretch? Does it go all the way north, a little bit north, not very far north. Well, interestingly, Tony, it actually only occurs here in South Africa. This particular subspecies, of course, we know now that it's probably the same species as some of the other subspecies of southern giraffe. Tony, I'm going to stop talking like that now. It's a little bit early. It goes up into Botswana and a bit of Namibia, although Angolensis occurs there as well, which is the Angolensis is another subspecies. Of course, I keep forgetting exactly which belong to what these days. So I'm looking at my mammal guide, which was a little bit older than the most recent taxonomic classification of giraffe. And I think that the southern giraffe, which is what this one is, please excuse the poll, we're a little bit afraid. We were a little bit afraid of further rains this morning, but the southern giraffe is split into two subspecies, I think. So I'm just going to quickly check for you correctly. I'd hate to tell you a lie, Tony Two Toes, especially given your fearsome reputation, of course, as a mafioso. Like my knees capped or, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I might wake up with a giraffe head in my bed, precisely. That would be terrible. Absolutely frightening stuff. Now, where is this taxonomy? There we go. Stand by, everybody. Stand by, just enjoy the sight of this giraffe. For now. Right. Now, you see, this particular one that I'm looking at is also now outdated. I wish I could just remember this stuff. 1 second. We still have a view, hey?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it used to be that there were 9 subspecies of one species of giraffe, and in the south here we had the Angolan giraffe, or Angolensis, and then we had the southern giraffe, which occurred up here. Right, I think I found it. Here we go. Are you ready? Right, now that is not the case anymore, and it goes like this. There are now 4 distinct species of giraffe in Africa. Alrighty. The Maasai giraffe, the Tippleskirche, which we know about because we see it up in Kenya. The other Kenyan giraffe, the reticulated giraffe. And then I was correct. The southern giraffe, which has 2 subspecies. One is Angolensis and one is giraffa, the nominate subspecies. So, the Angolan giraffe, which extends into northern Botswana, not much into Angola, and into Namibia, is Giraffa angolensis, and this one here is Giraffa. So the southern giraffe, Tony Two Toes, extends up to around about the straight line formed by the borders of Angola, Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, etc. Okay, round about that latitude. Happy? Good, fantastic. We have 2 giraffe now, yes, well done.
3 giraffe.
3 giraffe, I told you they were in contact. Because giraffe are so tall, of course, it means they can be further apart from each other than, say, a herd of impala, which wouldn't be able to see each other over the distances that these chaps can, or these ladies can. No, that's not a lady at all, is it, that one? That's a young male. He's hoping for a bit of friendliness from these ladies. Minamu giraffe are able to, well, they can only eat leaves, Minamu, and so they will, and pods. They can eat pods too. But if there are no leaves around, which is almost never the case, remember there are a number of evergreen trees here that giraffes will eat. There are also a number of trees that keep their leaves through the winter and then lose them around about this time of year and get them a little bit later. So there's always some kind of leaf material for the giraffes to eat. They are coming out of a particularly lean period, but there are always leaves for them to eat. They can sort of eat grass, but if there are no leaves on the trees, you can rest assured there will be no grass on the ground, so that doesn't really help. They do chew on bones. Bones will help them gain phosphorus and other minerals that they might be lacking. I suppose they might even also engage in geophagia, i.e. the eating of the earth. But largely it must be leaves, Minamu. Without leaves, the giraffe is in some trouble. I was trying to spot a bird. There was a bird about. Now it is gone. All right. Let's go back to Leo Smith, who's looking for the clown, Hosanna. We're going to head on towards the north and see if we can pick up tracks of Thandi and her daughter, Tlalamba.
Hello again. Yes, we are looking for the clown, Hosanna. I'm just doing a quick bumble down the white bed. Doing this, I'm sure we have further to the east, but also while the back sea tracks a lot more easier soft sand, and once the light's a bit better, a bit harder. Now I heard giraffe subspecies. I've got a question for all of you. What national park in Africa is the best place to see the Kordofan giraffe or Kordofan giraffe? Hashtag SafariLive if you know the answer. What national park is the best place to see the Kordofan or Kordofan giraffe? Okay. No sign of any kitties just yet in the Mawari. Are we coming to there? Senzo found that. Well, I'm going to answer. Why have a Latin the same? So many languages.
She's crashing to us. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm not sure what's happened to Brent's signal. He has unfortunately managed to lose his signal. I don't know why. We've left the giraffe now. We're going to go up sort of mid-central road towards the northern boundary and then go along towards where Thandi and Tlalamba were seen yesterday morning. And keep you posted from there. Unfortunately, the sky is still bay or covered in a rather thick blanket of cloud. We all complain about the heat. In fact, generally, basically, we complain about the weather every single day here, regardless of what it's doing. And we're now complaining that it's too cool for us because we like the summer, we want the sun. We will, as soon as the sun comes out, complain of the heat. But you know, that's just human nature. It's how we are. We can show you the pinkening horizon. We just get out of the way of the power lines that feed our camp with power, which is very necessary to broadcast with. Horizon is not quite as pink as it was when we began. Were you able to get the pinkening horizon there, Sebastian? A little bit, yes. There it is. Oh. You can see obviously still quite a lot of turmoil up top. Those clouds bending hither and yon, and they're moving quite quickly from the south. There we are. Lovely. Yes, I know you're all enjoying the peaceful start to the morning. Let's hope that it doesn't remain quite as peaceful for too long. Unless, of course, it's peaceful with a leopard in the screen. then that's fine. Then I don't mind peacefulness at all. I revel in it. Back we go. Big Cat Love, you say, if I come across the Duke's track, will I follow those instead? Yes, I would very happily follow Tingana's tracks. He is certainly my favourite character at the moment. I think he's probably not too far from the dam. He did call yesterday morning, somewhere around 11 o'clock randomly, which was a bit odd, after he'd been chased off by the lion. So if we come across him, yes, we could indeed look at him. He's much more difficult to follow on foot because he runs away from human beings on foot. Well, he sneaks away. So you have to be very quiet with him on foot. Thandi will lie still and then flick her tail at you and say, go away, if you were on foot. I'm not sure. Tlalumba's not great on foot. She's a little bit nervous. But Hosana, of course, is very confiding. As long as you don't get too close to him, he'll just stay exactly where he is. But Tingana is not a fan of the human on foot and will disappear, melt into the bushes. I once nearly stood on Tingana the first time I saw him on foot, which was not that long ago. And there was a bird, one single bird shouting of a thicket. And it was a little, I think it was a greenback bleating warbler, so it wasn't even a loud sound. Oh gosh, we're now losing signal on this car as well. Anyway, I nearly stood on him and he exploded out of the bushes and ran away and we didn't see him again. Let's go across to Bushwalk where Jamie Patterson waits to say good morning.
Well, the plan is not to stand on Tingana while on foot. That would be most unfortunate, and I think he would be very unhappy with that. I've never got close enough to even think about describing my walks as getting close to standing on Tingana. Hosana, on the other hand, we've all come quite close in that respect. So very good morning, my name is Jamie, and this morning Dave is on camera with me. And it is chilly this morning, but I think it's going to heat up very, very quickly. The joy of this morning's walk, of course, is that Herbie and I have not been on a bushwalk since probably May 2017. There's Herbie over there. I'm very, very excited. Herbie, of course, is the most qualified guide on our team, I think, or close to. Somehow he agrees to accompany us on a walk every single morning in order to keep us safe. Obviously, we're walking, talking, with an earpiece in our ear, which is not a recipe for paying close attention to the bush around us, even if we were to try, especially because my left ear doesn't hear as well as my right ear, and my right ear is blocked. So having Herbie around to walk ahead, Herbie's tracking skills are legendary. When it comes to leopards, there is no one I trust more when it comes to finding them. Brent will be very insulted. Don't tell him I said that. Shh. We'll keep that a little secret between us. And that's the plan this morning. We're going to pop past the Philemon's Cutline Den site, not walk into it, because if they are there, if the Djuma clan is there, then they're going to be disturbed by us on foot. But I want to check around, just see if there's any footprints. We've checked all of the other den sites except that one, and none of them are active. Went to Aubrey's Road yesterday, there wasn't a footprint. Went to Gallagher Shortcut, it's collapsed. And Brent checked Mvubu Road, and that was quiet. So the plan is to look for Hosana, but to go past Philemon's Cutline Den. I'm just checking for tracks. Luckily for us, Hosana was left very close to the Philemon's Cutline Den yesterday. I believe Sydney had him. So we're going to go and search from there. Otherwise, not much else planned. Herbie, everyone's very excited we're back together again. I'm very excited to be back with Herbie. Herbie and I spent a lot of time together, and then I left. left for far too long. For now, we're just covering some distance. I don't want to stop for too long and check the barren grounds of quarantine. I'm sure you're all incredibly curious as to what the answer to Brent's quiz is this morning. Let's go and find out.
Welcome back. Sorry about that. We found some gremlins in the Moati. I was answering a question why all animals have scientific names. And it's very simple, because if you speak English, German, or French, or Hungarian, you're going to be able to figure out what the animal is from the Latin name, or scientific name rather than Latin name. So that's why the name will be the same through all languages, where there is the common name will differ. For example, an African wild dog is called an African wild dog in English. It is called Licon d'Afrique in French, but in both French and English, it is, pronunciation slightly different. It's Licon pictus or Lichen pictus. So that is why they have scientific names. So we're just on the southern boundary at the moment, making sure there's no tracks crossing out. Barbara says the best place to see a Kordofan giraffe is in the Okavango. Negative, unfortunately, Barbara. They have the same giraffe that we have here in the Sabi Sands, the southern giraffe. Ahoy Bacon says the Kalahari. Negative. That is also the southern giraffe. The Kalahari is between us and the Okavango, so the same giraffe species. Well done to Carol and Iron Chest. You are spot on indeed. It is Zakuma National Park in the People's Republic of Chad. Now, since we are talking giraffe subspecies and where to find them, I've got another one. Who can tell me where to find the Thornycroft's giraffe? Hashtag SafariLive if you know where the Thornycroft's giraffe resides. What do we have here? Now, I'm also checking down the southern boundary in case the Avoca male has headed all the way south. It was his general direction yesterday. So far, only hyena tracks. And then also, Emma, could you just tell Jamie that I've already checked the Philemon's hyena den site this morning, and it is inactive. No tracks or signs of anything doing too much there. One hyena just walked past. But there was a lot of audio of hyenas towards that area last night before I went to bed. So, and we also had that hyena running in that direction yesterday. Very interesting. So I was convinced I was going to have... Oh, Cheetah is wondering, how do you tell the giraffe species apart? They have different patterns. Cheetah is the main one. There's lots of arguments to subspecies versus true separate species. Most of them are subspecies color variations or modifications on each other, but there is arguments that a few certain species could be, or subspecies could be separate species. However, I think that is probably wishful thinking, and they are actually just subspecies or color variations of our stock standard southern or Maasai giraffe. Always pays to go quite slowly on these main roads because they do get a lot of traffic. Just make sure we don't miss any tracks. But so far, nothing crossing out. Okay, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled to the dirt. Hopefully we'll find some sign of big cats shortly, or even better, African wild dogs. But it seems like James is taking it easy this morning, and he's now watching the sun appear over the eastern horizon.
Yes, the beauteous morning sunrise is rising. Excuse me. Which is quite exciting, really. Isn't it beautiful? So nice to see the sun again after a little while. Just listening to the Game Drive radio while you watch the sun. A few lions shouting up north towards the Manyeleti Game Reserve, which is a long way north of us. No tracks yet anywhere. It really is very pretty. You can hear a lovely call going there. That is the black-crowned chagra. Now, if you watch carefully, you can see those clouds are moving from the north toward the south, which, in fact, those ones aren't. That is fascinating. Okay, so the clouds over the sun, which are very pretty, as you can see them there, they are going from south to north. But the clouds over our heads, where we're sitting, are going from north to south. So great turmoil and upheaval going on. Can you see that? Yeah. Is it not amazing, Sebastian? Are you so amazed?
What does that mean, though?
So amazed? Or the sun, or the clouds? The clouds, I don't know what that means. I think it means probably a change in weather. That would be my guess. Some sort of weather change. I was just taking a legal photograph or two, everybody. So naughty. Carol, they are actually, interestingly, different colours during different seasons. Mainly because of what's in the air, of course. That's what gives the sun its colour. So in the winter time, when it's been particularly windy, then you'll get much more red in the sunrises and mainly the sunsets, because of course the wind comes up during the day. It's normally pretty still at night, so in fact in the winter you don't often get colour like this in the mornings. You get it in the evenings. And so in summer there are often fronts coming through, or storms brewing, or bits and pieces that have been swirled up into the atmosphere during the night, because it often blows at night in summertime, and so you tend to get redder sunrises. There are no hard and fast rules, of course. It's very artistic, Sebastian.
Imagine a bird on that branch now.
I know, imagine there was a bird on that branch. You'd be winning prizes for artistic sunrise shots. I'm always amazed with a shot like this at how fast the sun travels up. You don't get the impression of it unless you can see a shot like this. And if you watch carefully, that sun will disappear over the top of the bottom branch, probably within the next 4 minutes. I think it takes about 4 minutes. I'm not going to make you stare at that picture for 4 minutes, but stare at it for another 25 seconds or so, and you'll be able to see that it shall pass over that branch relatively quickly. Yes, many of you raving about this shot, apparently. Raving about it. Well, don't rave too hard, everybody. You'll give yourself a heart attack. Just to sort of appreciate it gently, I think, is a more appropriate thing to do. And doesn't want to be raving, either at this time of the morning, or if you happen to be in the United States, that time of night. It's almost nearly touched the bottom, that branch.
And now we need a leopard.
And now we need a leopard, yes, correct. Definitely in need of a leopard. I'm in need of a leopard generally. I'm having leopard withdrawals. Totally still morning and quite quiet, other than for the chagra. No Franklin call. One or two drongos going quick, 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 quick. Yes, Philip, thankfully at aged 42, I will be 42 next week, everybody. Yes, I know it's difficult to believe. I know I look like I'm 18, but I will be 42 next week. I have learnt not to stare at the sun by this stage. So I'm observing the sunrise much in the same way that you are. I'm looking at the screen so as to save my aging eyes. By the way, in case you hadn't realized, everyone, you may send me your gifts by next week, Tuesday. One shouldn't really have a birthday on a Tuesday, I feel. I always felt that it wasn't really fair that we have birthdays on a Tuesday. Birthdays should be on weekends, really, don't you think? Anyway, it's better than having a birthday while teaching the guitar, let me tell you that for free. And better than a birthday on a Monday, thank you. Yes, indeed. Right, Leo Smith has apparently managed to find something on the road.
Well, almost on the road, actually on the edge of the road. Now, you never have to worry about when James Henry's birthday is, because he will tell you well in advance. Okay, so we've seen a bit of this recently, and this is always very interesting to me. Now, you might notice there's lots of little bits of almost like skin in here. Oh, it's almost like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to get it out. I'll try. Let me get a stick. So, you can see quite a few sets of tracks. This is probably the most obvious one here. Now, we saw a tuba dug up by a diker the other day, and this is basically the same scenario that's happened here. I'm just going to try. There we go. Basically the same scenario, and it looks like another tall white squill that's been dug up, and you can see there's quite a lot of moisture in it. Look at that. You can see how wet it gets when I squeeze it. There's water in it. Now, this is a Stenbockie that has dug this up, and this is why they're not dependent on water. They're able to extract water from bulbs, tubers, out in the bush. So this is a little Stenbock, and you can see it's worked really hard to dig this out. And you can see the little scratch marks from its hooves here as it's dug down to get this tuber out. And it's unlike the diker that only ate a little bit of the tuber before discarding it on the road. This little Stenbockie has eaten almost all of it. There's a tiny little layer on the bottom that's mostly the external stuff. There's almost nothing left. So that little Stenbockie has got probably a good 2 or 3 days water supply out of chewing off that tuber. Okay. Always fascinating to see stuff like that. And there you can see why Stenbock are not water dependent. They are able to extract water from the most unusual of places. Sorry, Emma, can you go again with that? I was listening to the Game Drive radio. Snazzy is asking, what is a tuber? A tuber is a bulb, generally quite a large bulb, can be from various different plant species, and it is where certain plant species store their water and a lot of their nutrients, particularly during the dry season. That little bulb is it is succulent, and it'll hold all the water inside. And then once it rains and there's enough water around, generally the plant will sprout from under the ground. So it goes dormant into its tuber. Not always, but a lot of the time it'll go dormant into a tuber. Now, a lot of tubers can be quite noxious, so you've got to be careful about which tubers you decide to partake in. The San people who live in the very dry areas will also get their water from tubers. There are different tubers that you can extract water from. Okay, so we're still going very slowly, making sure we don't miss any tracks. What we've done is we went down the Mawati, we've come along the southern boundary, and now we're basically just slowly moving our way back towards where we started, trying to make sure that we find tracks of Hosanna or possibly Tingana, although I thought I heard something on the radio that Tingana had been found in Buffelshoek, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll check just now. Barbara says the Thornycroft's giraffe is in Angola. It's not, Barbara. Good guess, though. In the right, I suppose the right latitude. Well done, Izzy and Angela. It is endemic to the South and North Luangwa National Parks in Zambia, and it only occurs in the Luangwa Valley itself. Well done. Very pretty. Now, it's quite funny. You get quite a few funny things that occur, especially in a big valley like that. That is quite difficult to get in and out of from an animal point of view, not impossible. So you also have a subspecies of blue wildebeest that occur in South Luangwa called the Cookson's wildebeest. And always check carefully around here. It's a favorite leopard spot up and above and around a tree house dam. Well, we've been talking about giraffe so much. James has found one. I have found zero, but I've been talking and prattling on about them. But it seems like Bushwalk has found some giraffe of their own.
Well, sort of. I mean, I don't know if I would have described that as success. We were patiently waiting with our giraffe while Brent chatted on about, I daren't say waffle. There we go. Can sit through the gap in the trees. I dare not say waffle. That there's actually two giraffe here, and it was so patiently standing out beautifully in the open. Now it's gone. And in Dave's words, classic. As Fred started sending you across to us, it just went chook, gone. The joys of live safaris. We can hear a squirrel alarm calling off where they left Hosanna last night. Now, you've had lots of chats about species and subspecies of giraffe, and of course, scientists struggle to agree on their classification. I believe, unless something has changed in the last few months or weeks, I believe that the IUCN... I can't remember. I think I got my letters mixed up. Anyway, the people essentially in charge of the classification of animals, or at least considering the classification of animals in order to protect them. So the fact that something is a separate species versus a subspecies is critical in understanding conservation needs. They still have not agreed that there are 4 separate species of giraffe, and they still believe that there's only one species with 9 subspecies. So scientists struggle to agree on that matter. Now, we're not going to talk about classification because I feel as though James and Brent might have done that to death. What happened to this termite mound, Dave? It's half the mound it used to be. Huh. I've stood on this termite mound many times. Here we go, Dave. This is what we're after. There's actually a whole load of them in there. I think it might be the same 3 that James was looking at the start of Drive. Marshall, you want to know if a giraffe are very delicate. They look as though they might just snap their legs. They're not delicate. They are phenomenally strong, powerful animals with a kick that could potentially kill a lion. And I know what you mean, though, because those long, thin legs look very, very fragile. It does happen that giraffe, especially when they're running away from something, will actually fall in a hole or twist their ankle, and that usually means the death of the giraffe at some point, because they then become very, very easy prey. Now, that is important for us when we're approaching them on foot. Typically, when we approach any animal on foot, our mission is to make sure that they don't know that we're here, that we don't interfere with them in any way. That is not possible all of the time. So we were just walking down this road, we were focused on finding Hasana. They spotted us from far away. As James very sagely pointed out, giraffe are tall. That means they can see quite far. So they spotted us coming, but what we're very careful to do is to make sure that we don't frighten them so that they run, particularly where they are at the moment. This is a very thick drainage line area, and the last thing we want is a giraffe galloping off away from us and actually falling down and hurting itself. The same applied especially in the Mara. The giraffe and the zebra, for some reason, they had this entire Masai Mara to themselves, but they always stood on the road up to camp on the mountain, and at very steep sides on either side. And we had to be so careful when we were driving up, especially in the dark, that we didn't panic them, and that they didn't then try and run through that dip and up and out the other side and hurt themselves in doing so. So when you're approaching giraffe on foot, and you can actually get quite close to them, often the best idea is to put yourself, same with all animals, in a position where they're coming towards you rather than trying to approach them. So the fact that our giraffe have now moved off into the thick bush rather than coming this way, we definitely aren't going to push it. We're not going to try and follow them because it would be totally futile. Giraffe tend to be quite curious, so if you sit down and you just watch and wait, often they'll come and they sort of peer down at you. So they do come and investigate, but in this case, the giraffe were not having any of it. So they're gone. As patient as they were, buffalo, yes, indeed, the different giraffe subspecies there are some that are more endangered than the others. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure which one is the most endangered. I'm tempted to say that Rothschilds are very endangered. Or Nubian giraffe, but the Nubian is the sort of the species, and then you've got, wait, oh no, I've mixed it up. No, I can't remember which way round it goes. Rothschild is very endangered. There are other giraffe species that are endangered, and I would guess the North African subspecies are the ones that are the most endangered. Why? Because that part of the African continent has been the most unstable, I guess would be a word. And typically where there have been historical human conflicts, the first thing to suffer is the wildlife, whether it's giraffe, elephants, rhino, those sorts of things. So I would say that the further north you go, the more endangered the subspecies get. However, as a flat blanket rule, giraffe are actually declining very rapidly, and it's been termed the silent extinction because no one really has been talking about it, whether it's due to habitat loss, to bushmeat poaching, although I think largely it's due to habitat loss. You good? I don't know what I thought I was going to do there. Save you. But my footing's not stable. I've got a really itchy nose. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't do it. You know when you have an itchy nose? You have an itchy nose and you know you can't scratch, and then it gets even itchier. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to follow the sound of the squirrel alarm calling. Perhaps Brent knows exactly which of the subspecies is the most endangered.
Well, welcome back. We are not having much luck when it comes to tracks this morning, and we've checked the southern area quite extensively. I can hear some oxpeckers flying overhead, so they're probably waking up. Now, it looks like James and I were overcautious this morning while keeping our roofs on, but it is what happens. Now, I did want to chat a little bit about what's happened. It has been collected by Sabi Sands management, and it'll go off for tests to see what killed it. Now, it's probably the cold snap. However, looking at that Inyala, its bones weren't sticking out. Its belly was bloated, but that's normal with a dead animal. That's just gas. But the fact is that it wasn't, you couldn't see its sort of hip bones sticking out and stuff, so it wasn't in particularly bad condition. And those are the animals that are normally affected by the cold snap. And that's why we reported it, and that's why the Sabi Sands management actually collected the carcass. Now, I'm trying to decide where to go next. Jamie's working over there, James is over there. Let's go check the southeast corner. So I can switch my lights off now. There we go. I'm going to get up on top of the high ground, and I'll give my little brother a call on the radio to see if there's any updates on Chitwa. I haven't been onto Chitwa yet since I've been back to Djuma and Torchwood. Now, the Nkahumas were down south there. Jay says it'll be interesting to find out about that in Yala. Yes, it will. Now, quite a while ago, I was on leave, and we had tenants staying in Jamie and my house. We had tenants staying in it, so I went to stay with my parents while I was on leave. Jamie wasn't with me, and she was coming in a day or two or so. And hello, Stenborkie. Now there's one animal that is very, very ever seldomly affected by something like anthrax, because they don't often drink from water holes. And we saw where a Stenborkie had dug out a bulb or tuber today to get water. Don't think it was this one. We're quite far from there now. Off he disappears into the thickets, little Stenborkie. But it was at the time when there'd been a few rabies outbreaks. Remember what was his name again? The little leopard. Oh my goodness. Shadow's cub. The only one to get to adulthood. What was its name? It's gone completely blank. Oh my goodness, Sindile, little Sindile. There we go. I got there in the end. Had to go into quarantine because he killed that dog that had rabies. So during that same period, when my parents lived, we lost our whole pack of wild dogs to rabies, and almost all our jackal as well on the farm to rabies. So I can just hear it, go away bird alarm calling. I'm just gonna have a quick look. Where's that go away bird? Right there in the center of this little drainage. Let me go forward a bit. So I went home. My mom was in town. My dad was away, and I walked into my mom and dad call the kids' bedroom, basically our bedroom when we stay with them. It's the spare room in the house, and there was a water bug headbutting the glass door, and can't see anything. A water bug headbutting the glass door and trying to attack the Nunu. The Nunu is my mother's replacement child. It is a Jack Russell, and it was at the time when there were a lot of rabies outbreaks. There was a clear mucus discharge from its nose, from its mouth. So I was a bit worried. I phoned the state vet, but he was away, and it turned into a bit of a palaver. So I had to get a firearm from friends of ours. Now, in these type of circumstances, especially after we had the rabies outbreak and whatnot, you're very, very careful. So fortunately, I've actually had to deal with stuff like this, or rabies outbreaks and things like that before. So we destroyed the poor water buck. Then I had to drag it off, and I had to cut off its head and put its head in a plastic bag. Now, what you do, everyone thinks take an axe and whack it. You don't. That's the worst thing you can do. So the rabies virus is actually inside the synovial fluid in the spinal column and in the brain. And so you have to take a very sharp knife and cut very carefully and cleanly while wearing gloves, of course, and preferably a mask. You've got to cut between the vertebrae to sever the head. So we were very worried that it did have rabies, and did that. And then when the state vet managed to get back into town later that evening, we put the head in a bag. But you're going to have to wait to hear the rest of the story, because it sounds like Jamie and Herbie have found some tracks.
I have found something. I have found something indeed. I have found a footprint in the sand. And because I am a master tracker, I know that it was made by a giraffe that walked here around about between 15 and 30 minutes ago. How do I know that? Well, because we just watched them walk past us. So, as much as I'd like to claim credit for that, I cannot. It is a really nice giraffe track, though, because it is nice, soft sand, and the giraffe is sunk down quite deeply. As a result, it's given us a perfect imprint and a great way of looking at the size of a track. So if I put my hand here, it gives you an idea as to just, okay, look, I don't have the biggest hand in the world. But even if James or Brent were to put their hands here, it would be roughly the same size as that hand. Now, they really do have absolutely massive feet. The other thing to look at here is this hollow in the foot, where it is not quite as flat as the rest of the hoof itself. So there we go, in the middle, between the two halves of a hoof, because a giraffe, of course, have hooves. So like, for example, a cow or a deer or a pig or anything like that that has hooves, a giraffe has hooves, and it's divided into two halves. Now, a hoof is not a flat foot structure. So we walk, in the way that we walk in what's known as plantigrade, which is quite a sort of, in terms of evolution, it's a very old foot structure, that flat foot structure. Bears have it as well. It would be a nice example for an animal that most of you, or some of you at least, will be familiar with. The hoof structure is one of the most recently evolved foot structures out here. And it is essentially what happens is the tarsals or the carpals. So those bones here in your hand or across the top of your foot, across the arch of your foot, those actually fuse and elongate. So when you look at a giraffe standing, what you think is you would think of as the knee, because it's sort of up where a knee should be, is actually the heel of the foot. So they're walking right up on their tippy toes. Their phalanges, so in other words, these bones here, the bones of your fingers, are also extended right down and fused together into the hoof itself, so that the giraffe is sort of walking like this on its absolute tippy toes. It is a very it's a foot structure that is designed largely for speed. You'll find that it's animals that have to run away from other animals and as quickly as possible. So a very small surface area compared to the size of the body. Now just imagine, I spoke about giraffe being potentially very powerful animals. Imagine something that size kicking you, and with that sort of a hoof. Some of you might have been kicked by horses before. Now just imagine what it's like with a giraffe. And of course there was a terribly unfortunate incident in Hoedspruit not so long ago, where some Hoedspruit residents were actually attacked by a female giraffe. And we wish them all the best, because it was really actually very serious. It is so unusual and so unlucky for something to happen like that. But giraffe occasionally have been, they're the most docile animals, but have on occasion been known to turn and get angry and quite aggressive. Shamson, no, giraffe don't have a frog in their feet, or in the same way that a zebra might. The reason for that is because they've got, a zebra is, why can't I remember the word? Where it's got one toe and 3 toes. It's the same word. And then you've got those with even A zebra is an odd-toed ungulate. A giraffe is an even-toed ungulate. So a zebra, the frog is basically part of that foot design where there is only one toe. So if that's the outside of a zebra's hoof, the frog sort of sits there. So no, giraffe do not have frogs in the same way that the zebra or a horse might. I have no idea what function the frog serves. I'm sure I should know. But it is, I mean, when you look at them, it does kind of actually legitimately look like a frog in their track. It really does. I'm trying to see if I can measure, if I can show you the stride length of the giraffe. But the problem with that is that there was more than one giraffe here, so I can't actually distinguish between the two. Because people tend to, giraffe move in slow motion. They move very slowly, very delicately, but they cover an immense amount of ground very quickly because you're talking about a stride length. You've seen how far a giraffe steps, how long their legs are. So walking next to a giraffe or trying to follow a giraffe is much the same as trying to follow Brent Leo Smith through a shopping centre, which I consider to be my day's exercise if we happen to go there. First of all, he hates shopping centres, and secondly, he is not known as a slow walker. Plus, he is sort of giraffe-sized himself. So I end up doing this, trying to keep up with him. It's very sad. Brent, slow down. There's more things alarm calling in here. Something's going on. I'm going to do some serious searching to see if we can find a leopard. Then we could call whoever happens to be closest in. So while we do that, let's go and join James once again, see if he's had any luck in his search for a leopard.
Well, we're all doing some serious searching for leopards at the moment and some serious failing at the moment. We're arriving at Buffelshoek, what should we call it now? It used to be called a dam. I think we should probably now call it a puddle. Buffelshoek puddle, where I think there will be a stork and perhaps a heron. Yes, both. I know that, of course, because I've been past here already and I'm coming back. It's not because I have developed some sort of prescient sense. How's that, Sebastian? Is that all right? Will that work for you? Good, good. There is the saddle-billed stork. This one seems to be Sans partner, which is a pity. That is a female saddle-billed stork. You can tell that from her yellow eyeshadow. Very pretty as it is. And she'll be looking for anything in that mud. I don't know what she's expecting to find. She's actually been here a little while, which you probably know. I'm sure you've seen her here a few times. But normally frogs and fish and maybe the odd crustacean. But I can't believe there's anything still in that mud. But I must be wrong, because she wouldn't have been here for that length of time. Let's have a proper look at her diet now. Pairs forage independently, but usually within sight of each other. Well, there's no pair here. Most foraging diurnal, blah, 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 blah. Typically forages in shallow water, either standing still and stabbing at fish that come into range or walking among aquatic vegetation. This is doing neither. Jabbing bill into water or probing in vegetation and dirty water where prey invisible, sometimes stirring with the foot. Most foraging probably tactile, bill held open. Yes, we've seen that. But basically it's fish. And I'm 99% sure that there are no fish in this puddle. We'll take mollusks, crustaceans, reptiles, frog, lungfish. One day, gee, there's one record of it killing and eating a red-billed teal. Joe, this reminds you of olive oil. Do you mean the Popeye character? Yes, Popeye's girlfriend. I'm glad I got that right. Yes, I can. I'm sure many wouldn't see what you mean, but I do see what you mean, actually. Olive. I can't do Popeye's voice. He had a very gravelly voice. I think he smoked quite heavily. Mm-hmm. He was a sailor. Oh, how wonderful. Did you see that, Sebastian? That is a great expulsion.
Good morning.
So clearly there is some food in this water, or the bowel of that stalk wouldn't be working quite as effectively as it is. No, Steve, they can't smell fish through their beaks. I mean, their olfactory senses come through the nasal passages, much like ours do. These storks often hunt by feel. So they've got very sensitive tips on their beaks, and they're able to feel a fish or movement in the water and then snap where that movement happens, and then they catch whatever it is. This particular stork's looking slightly alarmed, and I think it's because of the hardy ibises that flew overhead, going, ah, 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 ah. I feel very disturbed when I hear that sound as well, so I share that with this stork. She's looking a little confused now. Where's your bow, my dear? Surely you must be able to find one. They are, as far as I remember, fairly vulnerable. In other words, close to endangered. Let me just quickly check that. Yeah, listed as endangered in South Africa. So although we see them relatively frequently here, they are endangered. I'm constantly amazed, as I keep mentioning, you know, that when we talk about animals being least concern or unendangered, we're not talking about animals with millions of individuals in their population like human beings, but, you know, sort of tens of thousands sometimes hundreds of thousands, but that's so few in comparison with our own species, which continues to breed at an alarming rate. I read an interesting book, and in fact I've just ordered the book. I read an excerpt of a book about a chap called George Mossop, who was a sort of frontiersman, if you like, a South African frontiersman who spent a lot of time hunting with the Boers when they started coming into these areas with their guns for the first time. And he makes mention on the Highveld of sitting in a camp and being, for the first time, and being utterly gobsmacked at the sheer abundance of creatures that came streaming past their camp. Herds of tens of thousands of black wildebeest and springbok and blesbok, none of which we get here, of course, because they're largely Highveld species. I see that the bird has now disappeared behind the tree. Anyway, and he says that the Boers had been hunting in the area for some time, paid it hardly any notice, but this was his first experience. I think he was about 17 or 18 years old, and he said it was just the number of animals beggared belief, and they just kept coming all night long, streaming past. And so we had that great migration down or up in East Africa, and I suspect we had very similar things here. We know we did, certainly with the springbok migration. There were millions of springbok that used to trek across the Karoo, and then we put up fences and we brought sheep in, and of course we brought our guns as well, and they all disappeared. And now we have, well, tens of thousands, I suppose, in various places. Really very, very small numbers when you compare them with the numbers of our own species. Right, so, well, that was Buffelshoek Waterhole, where we spent a bit of time with a saddle-billed stork. Very nice. Bye. Nice day. Emma, are you still there?
still live.
We're still live. Okay, good. Right. Okay, well, we're going to now go to Brent.
Well, we found ourselves a little bird party in absence of big cats. You can see there's some blue wax bulls hopping about. Very beautiful little seed eaters. You can hear a brew and a crested barbet and a white-browed scrub robin. Oh, Sen's right in front of me. You see there's there, in that little bush there, right on the edge. There is, oh, there he goes. Darn it, where'd it go? It was a little cardinal woodpecker. I didn't see where it flew to. Unfortunate, it disappeared. Oh, beautiful sounds this morning. Oh, there we go. Well done, Sens. There's a pair of them. Our smallest woodpecker species we get here. And you see the male with his red cap, the female with her dark cap. Let's try maybe get a little bit closer. What do you think, Sense? Let's try. They might fly off, but it's worth an attempt. Ah, they're flying. Darn it. James Richard would like to know, when can we hope to see the violet-backed starlings return? Oh, hello. Black-crowned chagra's calling. Oh, I apologize. There's... Oh, everything's landing in the same spot. So... This is wonderful. So I said black-crowned chagra. I was, I think, mistaking there. I think we've got two species of chagra here. Now let's have a quick look at this. Now what we want to look at is that white eye stripe. Now can we? Oh, we had full zoom there. Sense? There we go. Oh, hoppity hoppity. It was a black-crowned chagra. It was just a juvenile. So I thought we might get lucky and see brown-crowned as well. But the juveniles can be a little bit tricky. So what you're looking at is that eye stripe through the eye, and it's definitely black-crowned chagras. Oh, there's the little woodpecker again. A little bit to the left. You got him there. A little bit to the left. There. Oh, hello, pretty. Both of them there. Busy morning for the birds here. We've got... and it's quite far away. Grey go-away bird adding its exquisite voice to the sounds of the dawn. There we go, there's both of them. There we go, male and female. You can see the female's cap, a little bit of red in there, but quite a bit darker than the male. Isn't this lovely? Holly is wondering, is it normal for different species of birds to sit on branches together? Yes, Holly, it is normal. A lot of birds will travel in what we call bird parties. So you'll have multiple different species that all generally some of them will feed off similar stuff, but they will occupy different niches. We saw the little wax balls that eat grass seeds. Now we've got the woodpeckers that will get in and under the bark for little hohos and wood borer larvae. Oh no, he's got too high. There's southern black tits here. There's robins. There's go-away birds. So we've got a nice and chagras. We've got a nice mix of fruit eaters, seed eaters, and insect eaters. Now the reason they'll often travel together is that the more eyes possible, the better it is to spot any potential predator. Okay, well, let's keep moving. Now I'm going to finish telling you the story about that poor waterbuck that we had to destroy. So after lots of problems, not problems, it's just not a fun job. I cut its head off, triple bagged it in case it did have rabies, and then gave it to the state vet, who then sent it off to Niconico. Niconico is the veterinary school and basically major veterinary research center just outside Pretoria, and tests for rabies, anthrax, and all that stuff are generally carried out there. So the one interesting thing about the rabies viruses is that, like a lot of these very, very violent viruses, they once if you know what they are. So basically what we had to do then is the rest of that waterbuck carcass we had to pile with wood and poured petrol over and threw a match. So the rabies virus dies at 50 degrees centigrade, or Celsius, sorry, 50 degrees Celsius, centigrade Celsius. So it doesn't actually have to get too hot to kill the rabies virus. So you don't actually have to burn the whole carcass through. You basically just have to warm it up to about 50 degrees, and that will kill off the rabies virus. So about 4 days later, we got our report back from the veterinary research institute, and it turned out that this waterbuck in fact did not have rabies. It had a species of botfly. For those who don't know, botflies, they generally live in the anuses or the lower intestinal canal of a lot of animals. You got botflies that are specific to elephant, to rhino, to kudu, all different species of botflies that specialize in their different species. Also wildebeest and some of the big antelope, kudu and waterbuck, have a species of botfly that feeds off the mucous membranes in their nasals, in their nasal area. And what had happened, this waterbuck was not in really great condition. It was during the drought, and the botfly larvae actually ate through its optic nerves, so it couldn't see. Even though the eyes looked perfectly fine, the optic nerve had been eaten through by botflies, and that is why it could hear little Nunu, the Jack Russell, growling at it, but it couldn't see it, and so it couldn't actually see the house or the window it was head banging against. So, but when it comes to diseases like rabies and anthrax and stuff, we take it very, very seriously, and we are very, very careful. Hence why that Inyala carcass was collected and has been sent off for testing. And as soon as we get those results, we will let you know. Christy is wondering, can anything be done about anthrax outbreaks? Yes and no, to be honest. You can react to anthrax outbreaks. You cannot ever stop them. So anthrax is a natural occurring thing in the ecosystems, and the two biggest sort of spreaders of the anthrax spores, because of course it's a spore from a fungi, are vultures, which seem to be completely immune. And how they spread it is, once they've been finished feeding off a carcass that's been infected, they will go and have a bath in a water hole, and they'll spread thousands of spores when they bath in the water. And the other big spreader of anthrax, which I learned very recently, which was quite interesting for me, was the fly species that feed off the carcasses, because those anthrax spores are so minute that even a fly can carry a couple of hundred anthrax spores on its body as it moves between areas. So what will generally happen, the carcasses are burnt. Another thing that can be killed quite quickly with heat. The carcasses will be burnt, and if there is enough grass in the area, they will do a controlled burn through the area, as well as closing off infected water holes or salt licks or seeps that are infected. They will basically barricade it so animals are unable to access those water points. And there are chemical agents that are being trialed to combat anthrax that you can put into the water source or around the water source that'll eat up the spores. But again, almost all the stuff you can do is reactive. You can't prevent it. Okay, sounds like James has got a live Inyala that is free of anthrax and disease, we hope.
Yes, we have a live Nyala, not only one, we have a whole herd. No, we don't. You've got 2 bulls and some impala rams in the background. Anyway, here is a Nyala bull, and they tend to hang around in pairs, especially if they're a little bit younger. He's not very big yet. You can see his horns are still facing, or the tips are facing each other. They're not widened out. I see my phone has decided that it would like to tell me something. That was Siri. She often says, "I don't understand what you just said," when we're sitting in a sighting like this, which is disconcerting. Now, I was looking at some Nyala the other day, thinking to myself, they look like they're grazing. But in fact, of course, they're not grazing. Finding the last bits of green herbaceous forb that might be on the ground there. They will graze if they can from time to time. So if there is some very green grass there in amongst the rest of the really dry stuff, then they'll probably have a bit of a go at some of the grass. But otherwise, they are, of course, exclusively browsers. And in fact, the one to our left-hand side is eating pods, I think, or very dry leaves. I'm not sure. Let's have a look-see. Pods or leaves? No, dry leaves. There are lots of pods on that silver cluster leaf, and interestingly, they would probably most likely not eat the fresh leaves of the silver cluster leaf. But the dry ones seem to be relatively acceptable. But if you look at that bull, you can see that his hips are showing, and so I'm not sure that he's in a particularly good way. I think he's a little bit, well, skinny after the dry season. Now, he is eating the pods. He's definitely eating pods of silver cluster leaf. That's quite cool. All of these animals are starting to look a bit ropey. And we've had a little bit of rain now. We've got a bit of sun today. I'm hoping it's going to create some sort of green flush. I really haven't seen any evidence of a green flush just yet, though. So most of these animals will have to just push through for another 2 weeks or so, 2 or 3 weeks. There's the odd little bit of green coming out of the grass if you look very carefully. But otherwise, things are still pretty dry. So far, I'd say this rainy season has gone pretty much according to normal, if there is such a thing out here. A bit of drizzle and that sort of thing in October, and then hopefully in November we'll start to have some decent-sized storms that will really wet things up a bit. Dance, difficult to say, and it's not really possible to say exactly because rain isn't the only factor that causes the greenery. Time does. All of these trees will get green almost without rain, You know, a lot of their roots reach down to the water table, and it's just a timing thing for them unless there's a severe drought. The grass probably needs about 20 millimeters of rain, about an inch, just under an inch, maybe a bit less, before it will flush properly. But if you look very carefully down into the base of the grass sward, you can see the odd bit of greenery popping itself out. Brave leaves forging ahead first of the season. Well, that Nyala seems to be relatively content eating his pods. The herbivores that survive the drought the best would be those that, of course, are desert adapted. Now, none of these antelope out here are very desert adapted, but some of them can live in very dry areas. And I think kudu are probably the example of the antelope that are... Kudu and steenbok are the two examples of antelope that are very well adapted to living in much drier, more arid areas than this. Steenbok will live all the way up into the Kalahari, where it is, well, extremely dry. They'll sometimes have less than 200 millimeters of rain a year, and sometimes less than 100 millimeters of rain a year. So that's desert. So steenbok can survive there, and kudu do very well in the semi-desert regions of the Karoo, as long as there are sufficient succulent plants for them to eat. Not a lot of succulents in this area. Apparently Jamie is doing something balletic on the sand.
Tracking is an extraordinary skill, and I don't even know if I would call it a skill so much as a true art form. Now, I don't claim to be... the trick to being out here is to know your limitations. I know what a leopard track looks like, and if the leopard really kindly walks through some nice soft sand on a road, I can find those tracks. I can track like a pro. But when you start to get to this sort of level, to this sort of terrain, I am completely out of my depth. And in fact, to be honest, all of us are, except for people like Herbie. He walks along. Now, if I spent 20 minutes searching this patch of ground, I would have found that track. Oh, maybe not 20 minutes. Let's say 5 minutes. But I would have found that track. It's here. That's a leopard track on hard ground. Herbie just walks and spots them as he goes along. Now that is years, and you know the whole 10,000 hours thing? You dedicate 10,000 hours of your life to a skill, and at that point you get really good at it. Herbie's done the same thing when it comes to tracking, so that is hours worth of following an animal, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes. There's no way I could ever hope to be as good as someone like Herbie at tracking, and I know it. I'm not going to claim any great skill when it comes to trailing. Well, sure, I can tell you that's a leopard track now. So you probably can't even see it. The back of the foot is here. Oh, those 3 lobes there, and the toes are sort of here. The toes are here. Perfect. I mean, you can all see it, right? Clearly. Right, now walk fast. Walk fast along this trail and spot a leopard track. This is how Herbie walks. He walks like this, and he goes, oh, there's one. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's one. It's insane. I mean, I've stepped all over them now. I was going to say, let's have Dave walk at the speed that Herbie walks. Now, humans are easy because we walk, we are not soft, gentle walkers. We stomp along and we leave nice big footprints with our clear tracks of our shoes. Anyway, it's Hosana's tracks, by the way. Hosana's tracks then following Thandi and Tlalamba. Liz, you say that Herbie could find a 4-leaf clover. Hey, listen, a 4-leaf clover at least doesn't move. It stays still. Yes, I agree with you. Absolutely, Herbie could do that. I don't even know where Herbie is. Oh, there he is. He's in Herbie mode. He's in leopard finding mode. Now we've got Hosana's tracks. We have him following what looked like Thandi and Tlalamba tracks, but older, and he was hunting. We're very close to Treehouse Dam. Treehouse Dam is off to my right, to the west of me. Across from me is a herd of impala. I don't know if you can see them there, Dave. All the way across the drainage line. So there's a herd of impala over there. And now, for our next trick, we're going to go to the road and see if Hosana crossed it, I think is the plan. I've already... Herbie's gone down there to check. Now, Hosana likes this area, and the reason that he's come this way is because he is actually, although he's following the tracks of, I'm guessing, Tundi and Tlalamba, there's lots of food around here. This is the only water hole for quite a distance around. So if he's not at Gallagher Pan, he's spending a lot of time around a treehouse dam. See now, Herbie's walked this path already. And he's seeing something that I'm not. I don't know what he's seeing, but he's seen it, and I trust him, so I'm going to follow him. And that is something that Brent is also trying to do this morning. He's trying to find leopards as well.
Indeed it is, and we're actually not too far away from Jamie and Herbie. So they're over there, and I'm just going to check quickly along our southern boundary here to make sure Hosana hasn't done a disappearing act. There's some quite big areas with no roads in here, so that's why it's always useful to have a bushwalk team out, because they're able to work those areas to find the cats when we're not. Now, since we are devoid of animals this morning, well, we've seen a few stenbokkies and duikers and whatnot, and that lovely bird party, but it seems like the ellies have moved off. I haven't found any fresh elephant tracks. I haven't heard elephants anywhere this morning. We haven't been up into the western sections yet. We're just south and east is the area we've been working, and James is up in the north. Maybe the elephants are all hiding in the west, but if we have no luck with Hosana, we will... If we have no luck with Hosana, we'll head up to the west, maybe Shidulu or Kumuri. There's all elephant sign here, but from before the rain. There's a red-crested koran. Now, they should be starting to do their suicide dance soon. And the nickname of the red-crested koran is the suicide bird. Now, the reason for that being is their display. The males to attract the females. And what they'll do is they'll normally start with that call. Actually, why should I try to do it badly when I can get the call for you? There we go. So normally there we go. So that's their call, and they'll start like that, and then they'll fly directly up into the sky and then close their wings and plummet to the earth, opening their wings just in time to save their life. And the lower they can open the wings to the earth, the more impressive they are to the ladies. Now, of course, it's quite a good strategy in this part of the world to attract mates, because he can pop up into the air and he can be seen from quite a distance. So that's why he gets the nickname the suicide bird. It always looks like they just close their wings, they drop like a stone, and then at the last second open their wings to make sure they land safely. I've never seen one get it wrong yet. There we go, Tina, another bird for Tina's list. Congratulations, Tina. Yes. And I must actually do a proper count on my list one of these days. think I'm on about 1,600 or so out of 2,400 in Africa. The main area I'm missing, apart from sort of very localized endemics, is the Sahel region in West Africa, as well as North Africa, Ethiopia, that area. Okay. A very pretty little bird. One of my favorites, actually. And specifically their call. There we go, Sens. Next to the road. The emerald spotted wood dove. Also, and a very, very, very sort of quintessential low felt call. I'll play it for you now. One of my favorites. Calls, that is. So it lets me know I'm back in the bush. It's always good. Gispo says it's so fluffy. Well, it's puffed up because it's still quite chilly this morning. It was 14 degrees Celsius, around 50 odd Fahrenheit, which is very cold for this time of the year. So what happens, like we see with the antelope species, when they puff up their hair, and what happens is that a layer of air gets stuck between their body and their hair. The same applies. Hello, white-browed scrub robin. Oh, he's singing very nicely, right on the edge there, Sens. There we go, white-browed scrub robin. Whoop. Pop down into the grass. Now, so what happens is that they'll capture some air between their feathers and their body, and their body will warm up that air, so it creates a little insulative blanket for them. Let's see how we're going to get, well, quickly across to James with a little antelope.
Well, surprisingly, we didn't have to be that quick for this one. He's sitting there very calmly, not running from us, I say, and she's now digging a little bit. Now, Steenbok dig for two reasons. One, to get at the rich, nutrient-dense bulbs and rhizomes of grass plants, but also for territorial marking. And she might be marking territory. They also, of course, cover their dung in the middle of their territories. No, it's a young male. It's not a female, it's a young male. I'd be interested if one that size was territorial. This is fascinating. Let's just watch him. Yeah, Carol, not so much a tuber. They won't eat tubers, I don't think, but certainly subsurface grass stems, rhizomes, and that sort of thing. It's very interesting. We can't get any closer because he'll run away. But let's see if he does run away. We'll go and have a look at what he's been digging at. He is very sweet, as many of you are saying. He's also got a bit of skin missing from his right leg there, right front leg. I think we should go and have a look now.
Yeah.
Come, let's go and see. You see that? He's actually, he's still here.
So the police arrived.
Is it? I hate this pole. Is that right? Further? Yeah. So what he's digging for, I take that back. I'm trying to see if it's a piece of grass or it may in fact be a tuber. I may be completely wrong. It is a tuber, it's a little tuber. That's really cool to see. I don't know what it is, but definitely a tuber, so well spotted. Shall I put it on the dashboard? That's probably the easiest. So it's like an onion, you can see, very much like an onion. And this one's actually got a sort of sticky paste in it. You can see the sort of glue-like sticky strands. Lots of moisture. Cool. So Steenbok like onions. That's really very interesting indeed. I'll plug myself in again in case some of you wish to go ha 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 at me for saying that Steenbok don't eat tubers. Well, clearly they do. So lots of moisture and obviously packed with nutrients. The Steenbok not ideally placed, of course, to dig. It doesn't exactly have claws, but it does have sharp hoofs. And maybe one of the reasons they're so sharp is that it likes to dig, or can dig. Very good. Onions. No, Carol, I would imagine that it's not just moisture from that tuber. I would imagine that there probably is quite a lot of nutrient from it. At this time of the year, all of the storage of the plant's nutrients will be in bulbs and tubers like this, or underground stems. And until the leaves start to grow, when they'll use that sort of stored energy to grow their new leaves, well, I think you'll find they're very nutrient dense. Foskenating. Very good. Saga, I'm not going to try and taste it because it could easily be toxic to human beings. I imagine it probably tastes like a very mild onion. You'll find that most things out here have a very mild taste unless they happen to be extremely bitter. There's not a great deal out here that is going to inspire great culinary geniuses. It's one of the reasons that when people say, "Oh, can you tell us about African cuisine?" they always used to say to me here, and I say, well, we've imported quite a lot of cuisine and made it our own, but there's not a great deal out in this particular area that could be considered flavor-filled cuisine. Survival was the order of the day for the residents of this area. There was never a great excess of food and great fields of fragrant herbs that people used to use to season their food. Alrighty, Pajamas is still looking around for leopards. Hopefully she'll have some luck.
This is the perfect place for a leopard. The end. That's all I have to contribute to that conversation, because we are still looking for Hosanna. And Herbie thinks that he was chased by the same giraffe that we saw earlier, but at some point last night. I'm not going to argue with Herbie, as discussed earlier. Oh, this is a tree I have really, truly missed while I was in the Mara. It is a jackalberry, or an ebony tree, as it has sometimes been known as, due to the dark, rich colour of its bark. So it is a riverine tree that you'll only see in these dried up river systems, and it is very easily and very quickly identifiable by the presence of these reddish leaves. So of course all trees will get reddish leaves at times, particularly when they have pulled back nutrients away from the leaves themselves, and the leaves start to die off and drop off, particularly obviously in deciduous trees. But it's not the case in a jackalberry. These are nice, fresh, new leaves. They're not dried out old leaves. They're fresh leaves, and they happen to have this reddish colour to them. So it's a very easy, very quick identifying feature. Of course, the dark bark that almost looks as though it's been burnt at some point or another. Now, leopards love these trees. Why do leopards love these trees? Because they don't have thorns. They grow nice and big, and they are the perfect place to stash a kill away from a hyena. I love this drainage line or river system. It's beautiful in here. The only thing is it's a bit thick and the sides are a bit steep to walk through the middle of it. Herbie thinks that Hassan is still moving this way, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to try and get out of here without sliding down the bank. It's a wonder we don't have more falls on camera. It really is. I'm surprised we haven't. It's the perfect place. You can just imagine a leopard moving through this area. The perfect place for them. Hidden, secret, quiet. Yes, Emma's pointed out it is particularly lucky we haven't had more falls on camera due to the amount that James will climb a tree. And Brent. Brent fell out of that balanites, trying to plot a route for Dave to walk along here. This tree, not quite as exciting as the jackalberry, depending upon your perspective, is a knobthorn. Not difficult to identify, and you can see just why it is called a knobthorn. I'm still not 100% convinced as to what purpose those little knobs on the bark actually serve. I was always taught, and I've often read, that they serve a protective function. I really don't think that's the case. Elephants don't even notice. Giraffe feed off them all the time. It's like thorns. The arms race between trees and herbivores in order to be able to either eat or not be eaten. These vicious, nasty little thorns of the knobthorn, they really are horrible. They're brutally sharp. They really are. Well, those horrible little thorns scratch into our sensitive human skin very quickly and embed themselves. Hook right through. But for a giraffe or an elephant, it means absolutely nothing. They don't even notice them, and the giraffe's nimble tongue will come and pluck away the leaves. There's no leaves that I can reach to actually show you what I mean. Okay, we need to get moving. We need to start making strides in the direction of this leopard. Brent is coming around to help us. Let's see where he is now.
Yes, we're just to the south of Jamie at the moment. Just double checking the fire break now to make sure Hasana didn't sneak across and I missed the tracks on the main road where there's a lot of vehicles. I don't think so. The hyena tracks. It's quite a fine line when you're looking for leopards, about how much you stare at the ground and how much you keep your head up and searching. Okay. No sign of any tracks crossing, which is good news. And I have complete faith in Jamie and Herbie's ability, if he is in this area with no roads, that they'll hopefully find him. turn down my game drive radio for a second. Okay, this is a spot here where there's a big game path. No sign of tracks here. Nothing here. So the nice thing about working with bushwalkers, we get the area smaller and smaller that we're looking for the leopard in. Finding animals is a team game. Art Faithfully says, how many times do I think I've driven past an animal like a leopard that's hiding in a tree? I don't think too often when they're in the trees, but on the ground, hundreds of thousands of times would be my answer. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times. But that's one of the reasons why I move generally very slowly while looking for animals and tracking. Now, the faster you move, the less likely you are to find the animals. Now, for lots of different reasons, obviously when you're moving fast you can't look everywhere as easily. Secondly, you drive over tracks. Here he is. Not him. Sorry, I got very excited there. I thought I'd find his tracks. But it's a small hyena. And the other thing is that when your engine's making a lot of noise, you're going to miss alarm calls. Squirrels, monkeys, nyala, impala. So going at this sort of speed gives me the best opportunity to use all my senses, my sight, my hearing, even my smell. Now, I saw some vervet monkeys in the Moati a bit earlier, so I know I've got some really accurate watchdogs watching this section here. Now, a lot of things like that can be very important when it comes to finding animals. So I've stored that into my mind saying, I know there's monkeys here. If he pops out and the monkeys spot him, I immediately know which area to rush to. Now, and as Jamie was talking about, after the rain, tracking becomes infinitely more difficult because it actually compresses the soil and hardens the soil. But it looks like Rexon was busy here yesterday doing the road maintenance before the rains come. He's uncovered some really nice soft soil, so if there are tracks in here, we are not going to miss it. But alas, there are not. Now this is basically Jamie's probably due west of us now, and the tracks, the general direction was here. There's some big game paths that come out in this area. So check very, very carefully on this harder soil here. Okay, I'm going to keep checking very, very carefully here. If there's no tracks coming out here, it means he's probably not far away from bushwalk. So let's see how they're going.
Starting to get that feeling of anticipation. I still haven't found Hassan on foot since my return. And I'm really starting to get that feeling that we might be getting close. The little creature, who's not so little anymore, has a 12-hour head start on us, almost. What time is it? It's nearly 7 in the morning. Yeah, he's had a 12-hour head start. So we've got to hope that we haven't missed track somewhere, or that he's got a kill, because he would have moved throughout the night. He was hunting. I'm just listening for a moment. So Herbie's moved across to the other side of this river system onto the road. Brent is looping around us. And if he doesn't find any tracks coming out, then we're on the money. Haha, I found an easy track. Whoa. Maybe not so easy for Dave to film, but a nice clear imprint. This is the sort of track that you want to see, but leopard-shaped. That, unfortunately, is not leopard-shaped. That is a hyena-shaped track. The reason that I know immediately that it is a hyena, in thick sand like this, it's easy because you can actually see the claw marks from my perspective. But it's the shape of the track and the turnout. Hyenas walk with their feet turned out slightly, even when they're running uphill. So that's a very quick and easy way to distinguish between a leopard which walks straight and a hyena which walks slightly angled with its feet facing outwards. Also, the toes kind of look a little bit like puzzle pieces, smushed together. They fit together like pieces of a puzzle. And to describe what I mean, I'm going to draw, I think. So Dave, there's a nice one. If I draw here, do you think you can see it? Cool. So let's start with a nice fresh canvas, and let's see how skilled I am when it comes to drawing hyena tracks. So the outside toes are sort of kidney bean shaped. Then the toes around them sort of fit in, and then the outside toes kidney bean around, and the pad sort of sits like this. That wasn't very clear. That was not my best substrate. Not my best work, actually. Not bad. The toes basically smush together, and then you've got the claw marks at the tip of each one, which of course you will not see in a leopard's track, because unless they're running in very deep mud, in which case you might see the claws come out for traction. But for hyenas and for dogs, that's when you'll see the tracks with the claw imprint. Dave slowly scooting forward down the steepest spot. Apparently you've all been very quiet and you don't have any questions. Send them through on #SafariLive on Twitter or in the comments section of YouTube, especially for our newer viewers. Don't be afraid to ask a question, even if it seems basic to you, or if you feel embarrassed about asking a question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. If we call a question stupid, then we're being stupid. So please do send through your questions. And we'll love to hear from you, particularly from our newer viewers, because we often go into great depth and don't stop and do the basics, which is why I stopped for those hyena tracks, because we've spoken a lot about tracking, but not how. Dave, you're not going to manage to get through here, are you? You think you can? Okay. Bravely athletic. No, I think we can do it. You want to do it live, Dave? Is this mean? It's a bit mean. Yeep. Yeep. I got you. There we go. This is very, very coordinated. Here we go. You caught. There we go. Hi. Hi, everyone. Okay. We've managed. Well done, Dave. That was a joint effort there. Dave is now walking backwards. Dave, you want to stop walking backwards and show a flower? Ooh. At perfect eye level, another boerbean. And in this case, nope, still not a dwarf boerbean. Still just a regular boerbean that hasn't managed to grow all that large just yet. Oh, a bit further along this road. Now, this is Hosanna and Shongile's old play palace. I don't know what you'd call it. They spent a lot of time here as cubs, and there is a massive boerbean. So the same species as this tree, this tiny little slightly pathetic looking bush. There is a massive example a little bit further down the road where Shongile and Hosanna used to disappear up into. And my favorite sighting, one of my favorite sightings of them, was just here, where Hosanna was limping. He'd fallen out of a tree. It was when he was about a year old, and he'd fallen out of a tree. He was limping. And Shongile was prancing around, showing everyone how agile she was, and she jumped onto a log. And Hosanna went to jump up with her, but he couldn't jump, so he just put his front paws on and looked really pathetic. And his sister looked at him for a moment, compassion through and through, her brown eyes shining, and she flicked his paws off and made him fall down. It was amazing. It was hilarious. She just went, go, whoops. It was a proper Lion King moment. You good there, Dave? Okay, we're going to go find Hosanna's tracks. We're going to find out where he is. Brent is helping us. The clock is ticking. Will we find him before the end of the safari?
I hope so. I do hope so. So we're just checking along the edge of this river system very carefully. Jamie is somewhere opposite us here, and we might even get a glimpse. Not I've spotted, I think, where they might be. You can see Jamie just through the thickets there. Anyway, I can't really see it. Very thick. Oh no, that's not Jamie. I think that's Herbie or someone wandering about. It's Herbie through the thickets. There's Jamie. Hi. Can't see anything on Twin Dams. He's behind you.
Oh, never mind. Herbie's gone that way.
I saw him earlier. Hello, David.
Hello, Brent.
David, why is there a hole in your shirt?
What happens when you bring nice things to the bush?
Yes, David, show everyone your hole in the shirt. There we go. You can see a bit of that massive pectoral muscle on David.
There's a hole in his shorts too, but we're not going to show that one.
Oh, there's apparently a hole in his shorts too, but apparently it's in an inappropriate place. We're going to have to censor that.
I don't know. He's hunting.
We can go anywhere then. Herb? Minjan? Where's Hosanna? Herbie still thinks he's going east. Okay.
I'm glad we crossed that drainage line.
There's Herbie.
Shame, I just dragged poor Dave through here.
to come, and he's on the other side. Okay, well then, if Herbie thinks he's still going off to the east, he might have crossed on some of those really hard patches at the bottom here. Maybe I'll go look in the Moati again. Okay, you two. David, next time you're on leave, it's time to get some new clothes, David. Okay, no problem. Yes, I know that. The reason it's quite funny is because apart from the clothes I wear when on drive, the majority of my clothing is got holes in it, and I hate buying clothes. I think it's an absolute waste of money. One has to, I know, but generally, I also can't believe the amount of money people would spend on clothes and shoes and stuff. There's so many better things to spend your money on than fancy clothes, like traveling and fishing equipment, camera equipment. Senzo, however, I think disagrees with me because he is food is another one, but Senzo is a fashionista. Hey, Senzo likes to look the part. However, I think Senzo's yearly clothes budget is probably 20 times mine, because basically I will wear my clothes till they fall off me or until Jamie says enough. You have to go buy a new pair of shorts. Those shorts are more holes than shorts now. I have my stock standard. Yes, and Senzo probably has more socks than all of us. As we saw yesterday, I'm still wearing socks from boarding school, and I left boarding school in 2001. Senzo, do you have socks from 2001? No. Yes, I have socks that are from 2001. Actually, they're probably from about 90. Well, when did my brother start? 99. So some of the socks, my boarding school socks, are definitely from between 1997 and 2000, when I started boarding school in 1997. But yes, I will wear my clothes till they fall apart rather than purchase new ones. I think it's a big waste of money. And also, the price of clothing these days is astronomical. The one thing I actually, clothing-wise, have to spend money on, and it's not by choice, is shoes. I tend to kill shoes quickly from the way I walk. I walk very quickly. So most pairs of shoes I own don't last much longer than 8 months or 9 months. And also, there's no such thing as cheap shoes when you have size 12 feet. They are always expensive. So Herbie's convinced that Hosanna is still moving this way. And there's a couple of really hard patches of ground here that I want to check. Yes, apparently everyone's talking about how good Senzo's style is. Yes, Senzo, do you like being stylish? Yes, Senzo likes being stylish. See, I laugh at stylish people when their stylish clothes that cost an inordinate amount get hooked on a buffalo thorn, because it doesn't matter how stylish you are, when you work in the bush, practical kills stylish every day of the week. Yes. Ah, Rosemary is wondering about my colorful blankets. They are not blankets, Rosemary, they are shukas. And they are very useful. They can be picnic blankets, they can be warmth blankets, they can be used for many different things. And they are also, if you're in Kenya, Senzo says you can make a turban out of them. I didn't know that. Never seen anyone make a turban out of a shuka. But the other thing about them is they're not very expensive, Rosemary. I also use them as tablecloths. Don't tell James, he'll never shut up about it. But yes, they are multi-purposeful, and they're very colorful. You can use them as decorations even. So I brought a lot back from Kenya, and I use them as decorations. You can put them on the end of beds. You can... No, it's a Hosanna stick. It's not Hosanna himself. What else can you do with shukas? Lots. And also, they're not very expensive. If you're in Kenya so the trick when you're buying shukas is you don't go and buy them from the shop close to the reserve, because there you get mzungu prices or tourist prices, where they'll charge you. I heard one of our crew members, it was Innocentia, when she first came, she bought a shuka from one of the tourist places. I think she paid $30 or $40 for a shuka. Where I buy them, they cost $6. So, but there is a sucker born every day. Okay, I think he's still in this block. There you go. Jennifer says you can make a skirt out of it as well. So I suppose if you make a shirt, you can make a jacket, you can make a dress, a pair of pants. Where is the little chief? Okay. I think we're going to check the Mawati, because if he has crossed on some of this hard ground, it's going to be very difficult to see the tracks from a vehicle. Okay, let's go see what the update on the tracks is from Jamie and Herbie.
Bushwalk has been distracted by something very interesting. I'm just going to move into the sun because we're in dappled light here. So let me move my shadow out of the way so that Dave can show you something so pretty and so perfect and so mysterious. I'm going to turn it here, Dave, so they can see the join. Look at the join. Look how beautifully designed this is. So it almost looks as though it's been zipped closed. And very thin and very delicate. I don't want to touch it too much. It's quite hard, but it's obviously no longer got anything in it. Now this is an egg casing. Now if I were to hazard a guess, I think it might be a mantid egg casing. So this was made by one of the mantids that we see often during summer. We do not see them in winter. Now the amazing thing about insects is their eggs are so phenomenally vulnerable. And it doesn't matter what sort of insect you're talking about, whether it is a mantid or a grasshopper or a moth or a butterfly or anything like that. Their eggs are so vulnerable. They don't move anywhere, and they're a brilliant source of food for so many other things out here. So ants, for example, will go and try and steal butterfly eggs or moth eggs, and that's why they're glued so strongly onto the leaves themselves. Now, the one thing about insects is that typically the diet of the larval stage, because of course insects go through that metamorphosis, the diet of the larval stage is usually different to that of the adults, just to reduce competition. And the insects never fail to put their eggs where their larval species or the larvae form of their species will have food. And for some insects, that's very, very specific. So for certain types of butterfly, for example, or moth, it has to be on one particular type of plant. Raisin bushes would be a good example. Apple leaves would be another good example. And in the case of certain lunar moths, around tambourtes. So it's a very specific thing. Now, in this case, obviously, this is a buffalo thorn branch. Now, whatever insect this was, it was obviously eating, the larvae were probably eating either buffalo thorn leaves or tapping into the sap of the branch. They've hatched, and I don't think they were eaten. I think they've actually hatched. Because let me show you the other side. I'm going to turn it here. Here we go. You can see where they've broken out and into the open. Now, an egg casing like this is a way, it's very solid, it's a way of protecting those eggs from drying out, and ideally to protect them from predation, which in this case I think it was successful, because if something had eaten it, they would have actually destroyed the entire egg casing. And beautifully made. I think it's a mantid. I'll check when I get home. I'll get a second opinion, or a third or a fourth. There's plenty of us at the moment. There can be lots of opinions bandied about, and usually there are. The best person to have asked would have been Steph. Okay, Lily, fair enough question. Lily's 7 years old and would like to know, well, where do you get the glue from to glue the egg casings down, or the egg? That is a very good question, Lily. Here's the amazing thing, is that the insects themselves actually make it in their bodies. So you know how a spider makes a spider's web? That long, beautifully thin, very tough substance. Now the insects' bodies are actually capable of making a type of substance that's very, very sticky and very gluey. And they can make all sorts of things. Sometimes you find, like with grasshoppers, they make something that's almost like a foam, like packing foam. Sorry, Lily. I can't decide if that was a whistle or not. Herbie went off ahead of us to track. I'm just going to have a look. I mean, I'll hold on to this because we want to keep it with us. Lily, the insects make the glue themselves. And that's basically when they eat, they convert their food into different chemicals, different chemical compounds to make something very, very sticky. So as humans, we can't do that. We absolutely cannot do that. But insects can. Let's go have a look. I can't decide if that was a bird call or a whistle. Oh! An unfortunate Speaks hinged tortoise. I'm not going to touch it because it is still slightly rotten. I think Herbie will whistle again if it's Hosanna. No, I can't hear him. A Speaks hinged tortoise, broken open by, most likely a hyena, or a lion. Lions will also eat tortoises. They're usually the two, or actually Hosanna at some point when he was a little bit younger and he spent a lot of time eating tortoises. You can even see here where the stick is. Let me turn it slightly for Dave. There is where the canine pierced through. You can actually see it's slightly rounded. Now this is solid bone and gives you a nice sort of idea of the way in which a tortoise shell is structured. So not quite the same as our insect egg casing, but tortoises also have a general habit of abandoning their eggs. So they'll go and they'll lay them, they'll leave them, and off they go, and those little eggs just have to hatch and survive all by themselves. Now they don't have a method of protecting them, they just have to hide them, ideally by digging down underneath the surface of the soil. Then when the little babies hatch, they're born with these bony shells. This thing stinks. I don't like touching tortoise shells. They carry all sorts of nasties, especially at this time of year. And this was actually probably a fully grown Speke's hinge tortoise. They don't get much bigger than this. The females are usually a little bit larger than the males. This was probably an adult male. I wonder if the conqueror of quarantine is still around. I will bring the egg casing back to the tent. I don't know when next we're due to have rain, but at some point we will be in the rain. So we'll ID it. We'll figure out what it is. For some reason I'm almost certain it's a mantid, but I couldn't tell you why I am so certain. It's the right shape, the right colour. I suspect that's what it is. I want to go see if that whistle was for us, or if it was a birdie. I once had a guide trainer, because of course you don't want to shout unless you're Brent and you're shouting across to Herbie. You don't really want to shout when you're on a walk, so the typical way that we communicate is by whistling. Very unobtrusive sound. Ah, it was Herbie's telling me he's got the tracks. Okay, I'm going to find us a way down quickly. I think this is probably the best route. Let's go and see where James has been and if he's found anything.
No, haven't found anything. We've been in the east. We're now going towards the far west. We did have hukumuri, I'm assuming it was hukumuri, calling yesterday evening, but definitely just across our western boundary. So maybe he came across this way. We'll go and have a look in the west and see what else we can find in the meantime. I've taken my jacket off because it's warmed up slightly. It's not very hot for summer, I must say. Now, we have a bird. It's just behind the pole. That's quite a nice bird, that. Not because it's particularly beautiful. It's not colourful like a hyacinth macaw. It's not intimidating like a martial eagle. Can you see it there?
Yeah, got him.
You got him. Well done, that's the one. It is a fly catcher, everybody. A catcher of flies. Now, which flycatcher is the question? I think that's a pallid flycatcher. You still see him on the ground there, or is he in the way of the pole?
He's on top there, no?
There he goes.
Isn't there another one there, James? There?
Yes, there is another one. Keep looking at that one, everybody. I'm going to seek him out on my app. And I think it's a pallid flycatcher. Carol, all males are prettier than females. That's just the way of the world, I'm afraid. You're not going to think that's very funny, are you, Carol? No, I wouldn't blame you. Yes, that's going to cause a problem, says Emma. I agree completely. No, they aren't. Mostly, they're often the same. For example, the magpie shrike or the lilac-breasted roller, they look exactly the same. They're indistinguishable. If they are colourful, then normally the male, in fact almost always the male, is prettier than the female. And that's because, of course, he's actually less valuable to the life of the offspring. So if he gets whacked by a predator while looking gaudy and pretty, as long as he's mated with the female, it doesn't really make a difference. That was a pale flycatcher, everybody, not a pallid flycatcher. The pale flycatcher, there he is, over there. There we go, the pale flycatcher. Now, I will show you the one exception where the male is, I don't think, quite as pretty as the female, and that is the black cuckoo shrike. Cuckoo shrike? Will I be able to find it? Oh, yes, I can find it. I have found it. These are dreadful pictures. Hang on a second. There's the female. There's a photograph of the female. So she's very pretty, okay, and there's the male, complaining about something or other. So the black cuckoo shrike is the one obvious exception to the more colourful male and female discussion when it comes to birds. Now I say, just let me clarify, when I say that the male is not as valuable to the offspring, I mean obviously he is necessary from a certain perspective, but in gaudy males you'll probably often find that they don't play as much of a paternal role as less gaudy males, because they are more prone to being whacked by predators, because they're more obvious. In the sunbirds, that must be the case. Yes, Mrs. Grumpy, indeed. It does depend slightly on your perspective, of course, in that one. Some male black cuckoo shrikes are shiny black with a beautiful golden red shoulder. And, well, I suppose they may be considered as good looking as the females. I don't think they are. I think the female black cuckoo shrike is the most beautiful of the two. The more beautiful of the two, not the most. Yeah. Now we're on this rather unattractive road called the Gowrie Main, or our southern boundary, and we'll try and get onto the reserve a little bit further on. Elkie, what was that about bald eagles? No? Yes? Snorky, I imagine it probably is why bald eagle males aren't fancy. In other words, they probably spend quite a lot of time helping the female with their youngsters. They probably both help out. I mean, it's not to say that all good-looking male birds don't help with breeding. But I suspect there might, I don't know this for sure, there may be a correlation between their gaudiness and the amount of time that is necessary for them to spend in parental care. Because if you're an important part of parenting, you don't want to be obvious to predators and hindered by your good looks, or in the case of the widers and widows, your long tail. Oh my goodness, hang on a second. Let's go for it. We're going to do this one first, because it sounds like Brent has found something that isn't going anywhere. It is quite an exciting thing, but it isn't going anywhere. A scorpion! Look at that. A burrowing scorpion caught by none other than the ground scraper thrush. This is wonderful. Look at that. Magic. Eating the leggies first. Scorpion leggies. Yep, taking the legs off very skillfully. And now will come the inevitable bashing of the chitinous exoskeleton so as to render it. And he's just eaten the poison sac there. You see that? Specifically bit off the poison sac and ate it. A delicacy, no doubt, in the world of the ground scraper thrush. No, amazing sighting. Now, normally what will happen at this stage is that hard exoskeleton will have to be bashed and mashed and smashed and pecked and slammed against a branch or the ground until it's broken up sufficiently for the bird to swallow its food. It's eaten the legs and the poison sac. And now it's looking a little bit confused. Isn't it a wonderful coloured bird? Yes, exactly, Trish. It's precisely what he's doing. It's tenderising it. Tenderising is very important. Because the chitin in the exoskeleton, of course, is indigestible. Come on, do something. No, Safari Dragon, this is a burrowing scorpion. It's not an olive scorpion. The olive scorpion's got a slightly fatter tail and would be found underneath the bark of a tree. Whereas this chap here, or in Tristan and Ali's bed, of course, this chap, he almost certainly pulled out of his burrow. Yeah, you see this long, painful process of breaking up the chitin. Oh, no, and it's gone. Very nice. Right, now, Brother Brent, who's driving close to where I was driving, has had somewhat more luck.
Luck indeed. It looks like, we've caught up with the Nkuhuma pride, or some of them, not the full pride, and one mangy Mangen male. Just go on to this one's face, this one here. Look at that. There's a new injury. Ow. Looks quite sore. Looks a little bit painful, that. Now, they have eaten something. Her bellies are relatively full, and if you look on her neck, the pink remnants of blood on her chest. So they have had something to eat last night. And we are on Chitwa at the moment. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus the Mangen male, 8 lions here. I heard the rest of the Nkuhuma pride are still further to the east. I wonder if they're going to join up soon. Hopefully they do. With that Avoca male disappearing, they might come back to Djuma for a bit, which would be very nice. There we go. Thank you, Jamie S., who's just letting me know that that lioness's lip was like that a few days ago. So not a brand new injury. Now, the problem with the Mangen males hanging about as we watch that lioness scratch is that there is a possibility that it might spread the mange to the Nkuhuma pride. Now, when it comes to mange, some animals are far more predisposed towards it than others. So there is a chance that the Nkuhumas might not be as predisposed as these Mangens or as the sticks. So there is always a chance that they will be completely fine. And the closer we get to the rains coming properly, the less likely we are, or the mange struggles a little bit. Oh, we got someone up. Not everyone's got full bellies. It looks like it's time to move. Oh, there's another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 8. No, it's still 8. I think they might be moving into the shade of those torchwoods as the sun gets higher. Karen is asking if there's any sign of the second Mangen male. Not currently, Karen. So whatever they caught wasn't massive. As I say, there is signs that they have been feeding, but they're not too full. Okay. Let's go see where those others are heading off to. I think they're just heading down to the shade. Let's go through here. Now this is the first. Watch out there, Sens. The first sighting I've had of the Nkuhumas since I've been back from Kenya, so quite exciting for me. And it's such interesting dynamics at the moment. And I think there was another young male's also tried to sort of attach himself to the pride. And of course the evokers haven't caught just yet. Well, not fully. Yes, as I suspected, heading towards the shade of the torchwoods. Who else recognizes this female sitting here? The lady with the 1,000-yard stare. Now, Romit is wondering, what does the Talamati and Mangen males joining the Nkuhuma pride mean for them, particularly with their young male? Romit, it's near impossible to tell. It's quite unusual. We have seen it happen to a degree in the Mara, so who knows? We're just going to have to wait and see. Shame, they're not looking the best at the moment, are they? Yes, well done, Lauren. Lauren says, yay, I missed Amber Eyes. It is indeed Amber Eyes is one of the lionesses here. Quite a few little limps. There she is. I've definitely seen the Nkuhuma pride looking better. They are still gorgeous lions. Time to flop on top of someone else. Lions love doing that. There we go. Back to back. Oh, doof. Now, I can see that lioness there. There we go, that one there. You can see that pink. That's the one with the hole in her lip. And you could see that she had been feeding. You can see it on a few of the others as well. But by no means are they well fed. The Safaria says, do lions get hairballs like domestic cats? Most definitely, except their hairballs are far more gross and smelly and full of not only hair but bone and all sorts. So yes, indeed, they do get hairballs. Now, I can't see. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. That Mungen male stayed up a little bit away. There was some growling by Amber Eyes at that male every time he moved a little bit when we first arrived. She doesn't seem to like him very much. Sky is wondering how many of the Nkuhumas are currently here and how far are they from the rest of the Pride. There are 7 currently here. They're not too far, a couple of kilometers from the rest of the Pride. I'm sure they're hoping for those buffalo herds to come back. We all know how much the Nkuhumas love a good buffalo, particularly at this time of the year, where the buffalo herds are a little bit weaker than they are during the summer months. Well, I'm going to sit here with the Nkuhumas for a bit longer. In the meantime, we're going to send you back to James, who's got another birdie.
Well, a birdie, I think, is a little bit of an insult to this bird. This is the largest eagle we get here. That is the martial eagle, and I think the juvenile that we see from time to time. I'm not going to stay here long. It is definitely the juvenile. Its head isn't completely black yet, and I'm not going to stay here long because we've disturbed it. And it's just come off the ground where, believe it or not, it's whacked a steenbok. There. I'm not going to get out because I don't want to sort of contaminate the crime scene, if you like, because that bird will come back and finish its meal. Looks like a baby steenbok, so a steenbok lamb that it killed. And we do not see that very often. That's really quite special. Now that steenbok lamb probably weighed in the region of 3 kilograms or so about 7 pounds. And the martial eagle at that size, or that age, will probably weigh in the region, not much more, you know, about 6 kilos maybe. And so, although not much heavier, well, I suppose it's almost double the weight. They would take an adult steenbok as well, though. Incredibly powerful. Let me just get the exact weight of the martial eagle for you. It's crazy, Emma. It's crazy. Yes, Emma says it's crazy. It's so crazy. The martial eagle is 4 kilograms only, so that's about 8 or 9 pounds. So quite impressive that it can take something this size. Male, 3.3 kilograms. Female, 4.7. I'm going to guess that that's a young female because that's a big, big bird. So, we're going to move on because I don't want to disturb it. I want to allow it time to come back.
It's worth parking a bit away and waiting?
Yeah, we might park. Sebastian's just suggesting we park a little bit away and see if we don't get a nice view. Maybe it'll come back. We'll park up here for a few minutes and see if it doesn't go back. I just don't think we're going to get a view of it eating, but we might. Perhaps if I park on top of that termite mound, Sebastian.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if we can get a better view of the bird in the meantime. And go around this mound. Yes, Liz, I have to agree with you. They are intimidating and they are also angry looking. Have I got the pole in your way?
No.
Yeah, right. Impressive bird. So we're just going to have to blow out the background. Look how full his crop is. See that? That great big swelling is not a thyroid problem. It is the crop of the bird. And there's some squirrels now alarm calling. at this teenage martial eagle. Hello, Kev and Marion. The way that the eagle kills the steenbok is with the aid of a .22 rifle. They're excellent shotists. That's obviously not true. They kill them with their talons. They've got the most powerful tarsals, or metatarsal muscles, and they basically just sort of squeeze and then peck the thing to death. Its tarsals or its talons are so powerful that if you were to... I've told the story quite often before, but I know of a falconer who was rehabilitating one of these birds, and he had a big, thick leather falconry glove on his hand. And the bird landed on his arm, and he actually had to wear a fencing mask because, for fear that the bird would lose its temper and scrape at him with its talons. But it broke his wrist by simply squeezing, sitting on his wrist and squeezing. And he had this big, thick, especially designed leather falconry sleeve, and through that, it broke the bone in his wrist. So that's how powerful their talons are, or how powerful the muscles in their metatarsals are. Impressive, no? That's how they kill the steenbok. A little baby steenbok wouldn't have had a chance.
It would have been amazing to see that, eh?
Absolutely astounding to see it, yeah. I have seen two martial eagles, two juveniles, killing an impala before, a baby impala. That was when I was on my training course back in the year 2000, which of course was a distressingly long time ago, really. And a squirrel has now just spotted it. Yes, Saga, that's exactly what that circular bald thing on the chest is. It's not so much bald, but it looks very awkward. That is the crop. It's full of meat. Full of delicious Steinbock. Amazing. I don't think that bird's going to go back towards the kill, unfortunately. No, Sharon, thankfully they don't dive bomb human beings. If that thing came dive bombing towards me, I would be deeply, deeply distressed. It is very, very large. So that crop is basically used to temporarily store food. Not entirely sure why it's necessary. So it's a sort of muscular pouch, if you like, in the throat. And maybe it's just, to allow the bird to vomit if it has to, so that it can fly away quickly. And possibly also so that the stomach doesn't have to take it all at the same time. Very nice. Okay, I don't think it's going to go back to the kill, so we'll probably move on, and Brent is still with his lions.
Well, they're still quite flat. They pop their heads up every now and then. That mangy Mungen has come closer to them again, and we can now, once he got up and started walking, we could tell why all the girls were looking very skinny, because out of all of them, he has got a very big belly. There he is there. He's still keeping his distance a bit from the rest of the pride, but it looks like he definitely got the lion's share of whatever they caught. So I'm assuming it must have been quite small. And it means they're a very good bet for this afternoon, because I think they are going to be on the hunt, especially with bellies that empty. And they're not too far away from the Chitwa waterhole, which obviously brings in herds of buffalo at this time of the year. And also, if they head to the north, they're not too far away from the Torchwood waterhole. So they're not in the worst spot to be when it comes to finding potential food. Of course, ideally for them, something will just meander into where they are. Barbara said, "Where did the buffalo go?" Oh, away from the lions, Barbara. Oh, it sounds like there's a leopard just down the road. I'm just going to get on the Game Drive radio quickly. It seems like Chitwa's the place to be this morning. Copy, thanks. If that's on Chitwa, I will be interested. Okay, I'm just waiting to hear back. About the leopard, not too far down the road, near Chitwa Airstrip. I wonder which leopard that could be. Maybe it's a new one for us. I know there has been a new male around who's a bit skittish, the one who killed Sibui's cubs. Okay, I'm going to head in that direction. Copy, do you mind if I join? It sounds like a female. Oh.
Yes. Crash cut. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm not sure what's going on with Brent. Yes, I'm talking. Can you hear me talking? I'm talking. Can you hear me talking? Yes? Oh, good. Emma. Fantastic. Right, sorry about that. Not sure what happened with Brent. Obviously in a difficult part of Chitwa, where there is little to no signal. We have not come across any sign of the great Hokomori at this stage, but we continue the search. We decided to leave the Marshall Eagly to go back to her meal. Now we did see a rather mournful looking Steenbok ewe running around here. She looked a little bit sad. Maybe that was her lamb. I don't think it was a full-grown Steenbok that was killed. What a chilly wind still blowing, despite the fact that this front's supposed to have disappeared. It's coming out of the north. Cold wind out of the north. Strange. Alrighty, let's turn this way. Put my radio onto the western channel so I can just tell if perhaps they have a sighting of the hook. The hook, by the way, a 6-year-old male leopard in this area. Alrighty, apparently Bushwalk has an update for us, hopefully a positive one.
So we thought we'd lost Hosana's tracks, and for a while there we did. We were basically convinced that he'd gone south and crossed the main road across our boundary, and that we'd simply missed the tracks because there'd been so much vehicle traffic. So we turned around and started heading for home. We are now almost back where we started, and Hosana did a big circle, and he's come back in this direction, and I suspect Herbie's gone ahead to just see if those tracks have crossed the road. I suspect he's somewhere in here. It's quite a big block. We refer to places, you'll hear us talking about a block. A block is the parts of the bush between the roads. So this is the block to the, which way is west again? Yeah, this is the block to the west of Tyndams, to the east of Weaver's Nest, and south of Pangolin Track. I think he's in here somewhere. honestly. So basically what we could have done, if we were not following him, is walked straight about 500 yards from where we started tracking him, and this is where we would have ended up. We've done a massive circle. We've probably walked, what do you say we've walked, Dave? 5Ks? You would take? Just under? Not, I mean, but not by far not the longest bushwalk we've ever done, but we've tracked him far. So, as we're walking along, I was thinking about how relaxed we are as we walk down this road. This would be a very, very different story if it were the rainy season and it were summer. And this is why. This whole section from Chele Pan all the way up along this road is filled with these wallows. And during the rainy season, during summer, they become full of water and mud. Now, we'd have to be a great deal more cautious. Not that we want to be blasé at any time of the year, but we would have had to be a great deal more cautious walking here than we would be during the dry season, because this is where the buffalo like to hang out. So these mud wallows are formed where there's a puddle. And there's a puddle and one warthog who comes along and goes, oh, this is quite nice, and has a jolly good rub, or an elephant comes through and throws some mud on him and enjoys that. And by the end of it, you're left with these roughly buffalo-sized, or 2 buffalo-sized water hollows, which is where they go and they'll lie. There's a big one up further ahead. And it's amazing how the area changes around it. So you get all sorts of frogs' nests, foam nest frogs in particular during summer, really lovely trees. Weavers often build their nests overhanging these wallows. These are a bit small, this is a bad example, but a bit further where they're a bit larger, that would be the case. So that's why we would be a great deal more cautious walking through here during the wet season than we might now during the dry season. Of course, the dry season comes with other factors as well. The fact that we can see further into the bush also helps. The grass is not long and thick. We can see a lot further down, so it's much safer. There's also a lot more dry sticks and twigs, which also means that we're more likely to hear something like an elephant because they're feeding on branches at the moment. This leopard. I'm convinced he's in here. Well, it does give us a place to start looking for this afternoon if we don't manage to find him today or this morning. So while we continue to search and narrow down the area, Brent has abandoned us and raced off to Chitwa.
Oh dear. She's just in here. We can't see her. It sounds like it's Sibui, which would have been a new leopard for me. But she crossed over the southern boundary of Chitwa. I'm trying to just see if we get a sneaky long distance visual through the bush, but I'm not holding out much hope, unfortunately. Well, you win some and you lose some. Okay, I'm going to move out of here now because we'll give other people space. Yeah, unfortunately I don't have Travis off Chitwa, so I'm in a area, so space for one. Here we go. There's a... Whoa, hang on. Okay, it sounds like she might be heading back towards... How's it, Jamie?
Hi, Ben.
Nice to see you.
It'll be about 3 or 4 new years, eh?
Yeah, I've been in here for a couple of years. Or nearly 2, yeah. Oh. Cool, guys. Okay, so we're going to keep going. She might come back towards Chitwa, so we're going to hang around here. And maybe she pops up onto the road before the end of safari. She's got 12 minutes to make an appearance. She's gone flat on top of a termite mound. Maybe we'll be able to see the termite mound from the road. Let's have a look. Okay, so I can see the car. Bright night. Bright night. So he's asking whether she lost both her cubs. I don't know. Ava, thanks very much. I know she lost one cub. My brother actually found the cub. Okay, so I assume that's the big termite mound. I can see the game drive vehicle. So on that big termite mound there, Sens, you see that really big termite mound? Yeah. Okay, let's try from a different angle. You can see the vehicle watching her. So she must be there somewhere. I think let's try from a little bit further up ahead. Different angle on the termite mound. Maybe down this gully we might get a view. Where are my binoculars? Okay, let's get my binos out. I don't think we're going to get a view here. Let's just try a little bit further. Seeing anything, Sens? I can see the quarry on top of the termite mound. There we go, maybe there. No, unfortunately not. Well, I think it might be worth our while just sitting here for a little bit to hope she comes back towards Chitwa. This was her general direction. Let's try one last look. No, unfortunately not. Yeah, my binoculars are very dirty. I'd better give them a clean. No. I'm going to try one more spot. From a little bit higher up, a little bit further away. Maybe it's a little bit of height is what we need. Okay, well, I'll try find a way to spot this leopard from a distance. Let's send you back to James to see what he's up to.
I'm having a dreadfully unsuccessful time of it, I'm afraid. No tracks, no sign of Hukamuri. And just to make it clear, I'd have gone to those lions so that Brent could go to the leopard and we'd have had both. But we can only have one vehicle on Chitwa at a time, so that's why I'm hacking around here. It's not to say there isn't anything here, but we haven't had any luck with anything just yet. I'm hoping soon, of course, that quiet spells like this will soon be broken by insects, flowers, and new growth of various descriptions. There's a slender mangusta in the open. Can you see it there, Seb?
Yeah.
Well spotted. And it's gone. But if you listen carefully, you can hear the very angry squawking of a Birchall starling. Squawk, 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 it is saying. Oh, and that's the first spider hunting wasp I've seen of the season. I just heard it going vzzzz. I was hoping we might bump into the two elephants we had right at the end of drive last night. There's the Birchall starling. Let's just have a look at him. I'll be very glad to take this roof off. It's deeply irritating. There we are. The Birchall's starling. I'm sure you can hear the wind blowing. And it'll be looking for little emerging insecta, like the beetles that attacked us the other night. Possibly some termites. Ants. Endless ants. Imagine how many ants end up in the bellies of animals out here. MGN, let me laugh before I tell this or give this comment that you've just given. You say that slender mongoose high-tailed it. It did indeed. It stuck its tail up and it ran. It high-tailed it. Very good. Otherwise, things have got pretty quiet. The dawn chorus is over. All the birds are into the business of the day, going about foraging, finding things to eat, finding some breakfast, and probably trying to shelter from this very strange October wind. I'm sure Jamie is now on a march back towards home, the smell of eggies in her nose.
I'm still a little bit far for the smell of eggies in my nose, but the phantom smell is starting to waft towards us, and certainly, like a horse that's seen the stable, we have greatly increased our walking pace as we move away from the area that we were tracking Hosanna in. Breakfast. I'm very excited about breakfast. I've been hungry since about 5 this morning. Got up at 4:45, and the hunger kicked in at 5 as we were about to go on bushwalk. I'm hoping that Brent might give us a lift on his way through. We're not that far away, but if we continue at this pace, we're going to miss the morning meeting, which would be deeply tragic. Deeply, deeply tragic. I shall weep for hours afterwards at having missed that. Something fun that Brent taught me is that plant over there. Oh, deathly silence from FC about the morning meeting comment, Dave. In trouble. Emma's trying to keep her nose clean too. This is a narrow-leaved calentia, and that's pretty much all there is to say about it. Flowers during winter. Thank you. Yes, no, it was very informative. It flowers during winter, and it is a very hardy little plant. The end. It's got no medicinal uses that I know of or that I could find in the book. So there you have it. Narrow-leaved calantia. Brent taught me that. Speaking of Brent, off we go to him.
Well, unfortunately, we weren't able to get a view of Sibui sleeping on that termite mound, and she seems to have gone very flat. So we're just checking the western boundary of Chitwa Chitwa, seeing if there's anything around. But good prospects for this evening with the Nkuhumas and that Manki Mangen, quite close to the Torchwood boundary, and who knows, maybe Sibui will move into Chitwa Chitwa during the day. So there are good prospects down to the southeast, and who knows, our wonderful little clown, little Hosanna, could pop out at any moment, anywhere on. That is something we have learned. Oh, hold on, down there, down there. Here we go. Now, it's amazing. Earlier in the year, Tingana and Hosanna were both spending a huge amount of time around Chitwa Chitwa. Since I've been back this time, they haven't been, but it has been. It's been an interesting drive this morning. A bit slow on the big cat front. At least we did get to see some lions, and almost saw a last-minute leopard. Who knows? We have about 70 seconds to find another leopard, and stranger things have happened out here on live safaris. So I'm keeping my eyes peeled, my head on a swivel, hoping to spot some spots. But who knows? Now, of course, it's only a few short hours till we do it all again on the Sunset Safari. So don't forget to join us for that. Hoping some elephants will be around this afternoon as well. I'm feeling a bit of lack of elephant love in my life. And I do love this time of the year, though. It is magical. at the turning of the seasons when the green comes out from the grey dull bush. But from all of us here at Safari Live, bye! And we will be seeing you very soon on the Sunset Safari. What will we see? That is the question. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3